In 1983, Stephen King released another horrific story that he claims he may have taken too far. It's one that brought the dead back to life. None other than Pet Sematary. Now, this story was created into a film in 1989. So where did Stephen King get the inspiration for the story? Like a lot of his stories, he pulled it from real life. In the 70s, King moved to a part of Maine and lived in a house, and a road stretched in front of the house that had lots of traffic on it, including big trucks. And with this traffic would often run over neighborhood animals. There was actually a cemetery where the neighborhood kids would bury the pets that got killed on this stretch of road, which they did name Pet Sematary. King's own daughter's cat was killed on this road, and much like the book and movie adaptation, King had a son that hadn't even turned 2 years old that ran towards the road and was almost hit by a truck. Pet Sematary features the Creed family, which is Lewis, Rachel, Ellie, and young Gage, and of course, Winston Churchill the cat. They kind of moved to Ludlow, Maine to get a fresh start on life, and they end up moving to the house right before you. Now, this particular stretch of road would have been a very, very deadly area, and it separated their house and Judd's house, who in the movie we would more or less think of Judd as maybe being a older bachelor type, because he doesn't really mention a wife, which is a big difference in the book, because in the book he does have a wife named Norma.
Now, they built a facade around this house to make it look older, you know, like it'd been there for a while. And they also built it so that when they burned Judd's house down, or Lewis does, that it would not damage the house on the inside, the real house. Well, in our opening shot, we get a truck kind of coming down this way. We see the power lines on this side. There's a big tree right about here that it looks like it's been cut down. It's no longer there. Lewis and his family, the Creeds, are coming this way. The mailbox is roughly in the same spot as the movie, but they would actually turn. We see the house. They would turn in here and they would stop facing this way. They would get out, they would talk, and Ellie would actually run across the yard to where this pile is right here. That's where the big tree was that had the tire swing in it, that obviously is no longer there, has been cut down, but over on this tree over here is a normal swing. And just beyond that point is where they go to the Pet Sematary. So also in the movie, there's a path, as we all know, that goes across the yard and kind of down through the woods. Rachel asks Judd, you know, oh, where's that path go? And he's like, I'll take you there one day. Which they do, and we find out that it goes to the Pet Sematary. Now, the people that own the house, they're not at home. We've tried to come by here 2 or 3 days now and can't never seem to get anybody home, so we can't actually walk the property, but we are across the road, so we're gonna kind of give you a little shot of that. They would have came across here, and just on the other side of these trees right here is where the path leads down into the woods to the Pet Sematary.
Mommy, Daddy, come on, let's go! We're coming!
All set? Let's get on with it.
Yay!
Now we were really hoping someone would be at home so we could walk and better line these shots up for you guys. But like I said, we've been by here 2 or 3 days and nobody is ever at home. So we're kind of left with just a shot from across the road. Here's another shot of the Creed's home in Pet Sematary. Kind of give you a wider across the road shot.
I mean, a lot of it looks like it's
Looks the same.
still the same. So you have this home as being the opening shot. I mean, you see a little bit of it, like with Missy coming out. And then, of course, we get this shot where the horrible scene with Gage happens. And then ultimately we end up back here to where Gage takes Judd out. Another difference between the book and the movie adaptation is that Gage is very chatty in the book, which he talks a little bit more in the movie after he gets brought back versus before, you know, with when the neck, you know, the needle gets stuck in the neck and he's like, no fair. But in the book, he like smack talks Judd. Like, I think one of the lines was like, I'm gonna F with you, old man. Like, yeah, Gage didn't play. He got the done and some smack talk.
We're here in Ellsworth, Maine. We're currently headed to a very special location. This location in the movie, you would have gotten here by leaving Lewis's house and walking down a little narrow path towards the woods. We're in the midst of this clearing, and the reason we're here is this is the Pet Sematary. Now, I know it looks a lot different now than from the movie. A lot of set dressing out here. There's also a lot of trees you see behind me, little ones that have sprouted up, and weeds and shrubs and everything, but this is definitely it. Also, the thing that's different is, if I pan back around, you can see this blue water tower and this blue building behind me that wasn't there. Or if they were, they've obviously had a remodel, and the camera work to cover them up was phenomenal. So you see these rock boulders off to my right, and you see these boulders sitting here where Renee's at. Right in the middle is where the deadfall was, the barrier that you don't cross to go to the Micmac because the soil is sour. We can line up one of these shots. Right where Renee's standing is where Judd would have been standing holding his shovel and his pickaxe as he's taking Lewis to the Micmac to bury Church. The camera would have been, I'm going to try to get up in these trees a little bit. A little more zoomed in than this, but he's standing there. We see the deadfall here, but we also see over his shoulder this boulder right here that's kind of more vertical than the rest of them. So it would have been a little more zoomed in, but with our wide angle, this is about the shot.
Start a new one.
The place we're going is on the other side of that.
Now, the other shot that we can line up is with these boulders here. And the shot where Judd is talking to Ellie about, you know, the Pet Sematary and how it's, you know, a place of rest, and showing her the where he had buried his dog Spot. As the camera, you know, pans around, you can see these boulders just over on the side of Judd.
That's where I buried my dog Spot when he died of old age in 1924. Ellie, Do you know what a graveyard really is?
Now, we did find this earlier. We thought we'd put it back up, but Renee found these pieces of wood laying here, and they're not limbs, they're not branches, but what they are is painted. You can see this whitish gray paint, and it is paint. It's not any kind of mold or mildew or anything like that. And you can see it also has 3 nails. The third one's here. We put it back up, stuck it in the ground for the next person to hopefully find. Hopefully it'll stay here, but this has to be one of the crosses or one of the burial markers that was used here during the movie A Pet Sematary. And this spot right here would be the entrance to the Pet Sematary. In the shot, you can see a tree that looks just like this one, this kind of split that Judd is kind of standing in front of, and you have Ellie, and you got the mom, Rachel, kind of right here. And if you take down all these trees that have grown up that is here now, straight ahead would be the deadfall. We know we've walked through here, so we know that the deadfall is straight in front of us, because you can see the deadfall in the shot from the movie when they first walk up and see the Pet Sematary sign kind of hanging over. You can see straight ahead on the other side of the cemetery is the deadfall. So this is your entrance to the Pet Sematary.
There's the place.
What's it say, Mommy?
It says Pet Sematary, honey. It's misspelled, but that's what it says.
For the next scene, we are at Ellsworth City Hall in Ellsworth, Maine. Now, this would have been a stand-in for the University of Maine in the movie. Now, I've already mentioned that King pulled inspiration from his own life for part of the Pet Sematary movie. So just like Lewis Creed was offered a new position at the University of Maine, that was true in a part of Stephen King's actual life also. He was offered a position as a professor at the University of Maine, which led him to the house that inspired all the Pet Sematary story.
Right about here is the very first shot we get of them bringing in Victor Pascal, because we see the sidewalk here, and then you get a really up close kind of blurry shot of his head with them carrying them. Would have been up the stairs, because somebody said, did anybody see what happened? And somebody else says he got hit by a truck. So with the way the camera is sitting, they would have had to have been bringing him up these steps here and get real into the picture like this, because you see a bloody head. Then we snap to them going up the steps into the University Hospital. The camera is here at the top of the steps, because we can still see the sidewalk and these bushes, and it's a whole group of people. A bunch of them, few of them carrying Victor on what looks like a large sheet. They would come up these steps. You can see these windows in the shot. They're all still the same. And they would have brought him right in through these doors for Lewis to take a look at him and try to save his life.
Gently! Didn't even stop!
So the town hall is closed today, but as you can see inside, just to your left over here on this wall is where, and you would have got a glimpse of the bulletin board, and on it you would have seen a big, piece of newspaper that says rabies with a picture of Saint Bernard on there, referencing Stephen King's Cujo. Now, the shot would have been taken from the top of those stairs looking back at this door as the crowd is bringing Victor Pascal up, and they would have went right in front of you towards those other doors that you can see the opening out the other side.
Dr. Creed!
What's happened here?
He got hit by a truck!
Oh my God!
Dr. Creed! Get them all out of here.
where Lewis would have examined Pascal and realized that he had already passed away.
In the movie, we get a pretty decent amount of shots of Victor Pascal because he's kind of like almost like a comedic relief in the middle of a horror movie, and he manipulates a lot of things and tries to help the family out as much as possible. You know, trying to warn them, like, you shouldn't be doing this. And, you know, in the end, he's trying to get Rachel back there to, like, stop Lewis and all that. But in essence, in the book, we get a scene where Victor Pascal is hit by a car. And then that night, after, you know, the terrifying scene where he comes back and he says Lewis's name and he gives him the warning of the pet cemetery, you know, that night Lewis has the nightmare, or so he thinks, about Pascal coming back and taking him to the pet cemetery and warning him that night. That's ultimately it in the book. Victor Pascal is done for. You don't see him anymore in the story other than just some brief mentioning of his name like he's talking to Ellie. But you don't continue to get these shots like you do in the movie.
I like the way they kind of do the foreshadowing in this movie. Right off the rip, opening scene as the Creeds are moving into their new home. We get the fast-moving truck, that scene going down the road that we, you know, learn later on that's what kills Gage. But then also in this scene here with Pascal, right off the bat, when you see the bloody head that's really close, even though it's kind of blurry, and someone says, did anybody see what happened? We hear a girl or a woman say, he was hit by a truck. So ultimately, saying he'd been hit by a truck is kind of foreshadowing for what's going to happen later on in the movie with Church, and then again with Gage, everything else that goes on with the Pet Sematary and the Micmac and everything. It kind of all, you know, folds into one, and you just get little sprinklings of future events. We have made it. Whew. After much research, much walking and climbing, we have made it to the area in the movie where you see after Lewis and Judd have crossed the deadfall. I don't know why I keep wanting to say something else. After they've crossed the deadfall, the next shot that you see is them kind of climbing through the woods up all those twisted, spooky looking roots, and they hear that noise, and Judd's like, it's just a loon. That's where we are at. And we are in Acadia National Forest, just north of Deer Brook Bridge. So they have taken up a lot of the roots and put down stairs and stuff to make it easier for the hikers. But a lot of the roots are still here. We're going to line up some shots for you. But first, I'm going to show you a big cluster of the roots so you know we're in the right spot. So if you look right here, these roots and this root system should look familiar to you. If you're a fan of the movie, or see how they are twisted and kind of gnarly and spooky looking. So the area that we're going to be is just on this side to my left. But as you can see right here where these feet are, this is the stair system that they put in.
So let's talk about some differences between the 1989 film adaptation and the actual book. In the book, Judd doesn't just offer to take the cat over the deadfall into the Micmac just to be polite. He's actually seeing himself as doing like a favor back to Lewis, because in the book, Judd is not a lonely old gentleman living across the road. He got him a woman by the name of Norma. And in the book, Norma has a heart attack on Halloween night, and Lewis helps save her, but she ends up passing away after New Year's anyway. So in the book, Judd sees himself as like, okay, Lewis helped me out. I'm going to help him out by saving him from having to tell Ellie that her cat died. But in the film, he's just trying to save Ellie's feelings and really doesn't have good judgment when it comes to just taking the cat over because he knows what's going to happen. Another difference is when the things come back from the Micmac, they're not quite like they were in the movie. Stephen King kind of describes them as being stupid and sluggish, not these vicious creatures that are trying to like attack and kill everybody. One other thing is the book alludes to a spirit that controls the Micmac, and like an evil presence. This evil presence is a Wendigo that is like cannibalistic, you know, being or whatever. And it's described as when they take something to the Micmac, they get this feeling of euphoria and just they know what they're doing is wrong, but they love it so much. Whereas in the film, he's just confused, like, Judd, what are we doing? What are we doing? You really don't get that vibe from him. But I think they try to allude to the fact that there is like a spirit in the woods when they hear the weird noise, and you know, Lewis is like, what's that? And he's like, oh, it's a loon.
Yeah,
no, it's not.
No, because you can tell, like, for a minute, like, Judd's got this kind of worried look on his face,
He knows.
He's like,
he knows.
oh, it's just a loon. Let's just keep going.
Yeah, I think
So
that's where they try to kind of push it in there without obviously coming out and saying it in the old 1989 version.
The first shot we're going to see is when you first see the site, you see them kind of walk over a long route around a tree, which should be this one right here. Then after that, we see the camera kind of move.
Not much farther now.
We're seeing the guys kind of walk in this general area because they're making their way up the hill. Now, one thing I want to point out is the fact that this, with them redoing all of this, I'm trying not to fall off the side of this hill while focusing. All of this would not be as high up, especially in this area through here, because it would have been all of the roots right here with no stairs. So all these rocks would have been gone. They built this up to kind of be able to do the staircase that's kind of to Renee's right. So you got to picture this down a little more with all these roots. And as you can tell in this area, a lot of the roots are still here where they pushed them away, kind of like they are on the other side of the steps. Anyway, so we see them kind of walk in this direction. And they get about, Lewis gets about where Renee's at. Judd's more over here. That's whenever they hear the, quote, loon. So the shot that you kind of get is Lewis is standing here, about where Renee is, close to this tree. Judd's up this way. They hear the loon, and Lewis is like, what was that? Judd kind of looks a little scared, and he's like, oh, it's just a loon. Let's just keep going.
Judd, what's that?
Just a loon.
But over Judd's shoulder, let me get up here so you guys can see it. Renee's going to move on up some. So if I'm Lewis and Renee is Judd.
Is that about right?
Come this way just a little bit toward me. All right, so, you know, they're both looking around. They hear the loon. Over Judd's shoulder, you can see the tree. And there's one over here also with the notches in it. Looks like it's been cut open almost. Those are very visible in both of the scenes that are shot. This one here, and as they go to, after they hear the loon, as they go to finish walking. Like I said, all of this would not be built up. It would be more level, no rocks, just all the twisted roots. But you see it there, and you also see it as they continue on. You see the tree with the notch in it.
much longer now.
So we know this is the right area just from the notches, from the trees, because Lewis is standing right near, and they walk right between two oak trees. And here we are, headed to the Micmac.
I'm gonna tell you what, getting to this spot is a workout, but it's definitely worth seeing.
Yeah, it's beautiful out here, and just knowing that you're in the spot where Judd and Lewis trekked through the trail to get to the Micmac. And I mean, you can tell it doesn't look quite the same. Like we said, they have torn up a lot of the roots to put this path in, because you can see here's the stairs. But just over to my right, you can still see the root system like we showed you guys earlier. But they put this in to make it easier for hikers versus trying to climb over all this. But at least it does still look a lot like it. It's not completely gone. So
Yeah. There's multiple ways of getting here. So we've actually been here. This is our second day of attempting this. The first day was, I'd say, down a pretty difficult path.
Yeah.
And we ended up stopping about 15 minutes from here because it was just straight downhill on rocks, and it had been raining and it was super foggy. And I'm not gonna lie, it looked like something that would have came straight out of a horror movie. Like,
Yeah.
honestly, it looked like we was going to the Micmac, like for real. So we actually came back today and tried a second way, which was much easier. Still a difficult, not like difficult, but a long walk with some uphill, but it's a road.
yeah, it took about 30. It's a bike trail where so bikers, bicyclists would use it to ride versus
Yeah, so no like rocks or no like climbing over like
no slipping and falling to your
jagged
death.
like roots or anything like. It's a road. So in the movie, the actors would have had easy access to this right here, just via this path right here, because it's easily big enough for a car.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have had to make the long walk like we did to get back here.
Right. So if you want to see this, we parked at the Jordan Pond and gift shop center area, and then just kind of walked up the Jordan Pond Trail towards like Eagle Pond or Eagle Lake, and you'll see signs, and just follow it all the way up here. You'll see the Deer Brook Bridge, because you'll actually have to cross it, but in order to see it, you would have to come down. But that's the area. When you get to the bridge, just kind of come back about 20 feet down the road, and you'll see the little rocky or stone trail to get up here. Don't go to Bubblehead.
No, that's
Head.
the hard way.
That's where other people have been and said that, oh, this is the location. Guess what? That ain't the location. So don't even go over there thinking that.
But it is the general like trail. Like that is the hard trail that we attempted to go down first. So it will lead you here.
It's just going to take you a lot longer.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot more difficult.
Yeah. For the next filming location, we're just outside of the Arcadia National Forest. We're at Mount Desert, right here near the John M. Williams Boat Company. It's right on this lovely lake you can probably see behind me.
Yeah, so in this scene, we have just realized that Church the cat has been ran over by one of the trucks, and rather than Lewis telling Ellie about the death of the cat, Judd comes up with, hey, we can take you to that place that I told you not to go to.
Yeah.
And we can do something about this dead cat right now. So they cross over into the sour ground, and they have started making their long trip to where they're going to bury the cat. And it is a long trip.
Yep. To the Micmac Indian burial ground. We're here at the quarry where Judd and Lewis are climbing the rocks to get to the Micmac burial ground. Now I'm on one side of this quarry. I pan over. This is what the quarry looks like. And this is what it would have actually looked like had they not blocked all of this out in the movie. So you can see this rock formation here, but where we have to try to get to is right over here. Because this area right through here and even up to this rock is where they would have been filming, shooting back in this direction so that you didn't see the house or the boat place behind me. So they're very intricate shots to make it look like they were out in the middle of nowhere on this quest to get to the burial ground. We're gonna try to get over there. So currently Renee has walked off and left me. I don't know if she went to try to find a way to get over there or if she threw in the towel or what. Now it does look like there's a trail through here. I think it's too cold for snakes, but hopefully no ticks. Fingers crossed for no ticks. Trying to get to where they are. Or where they were in the movie. Still no sign of Renee. Made it to the top of the quarry. As you can see, this is what it really looks like. That's a beautiful view. So, when we first see them in the quarry area, these trees wouldn't have been here. You don't see Judd because he's on the other side of this rock right here. But we do see Lewis look like he's jumped down off of something. And we see Judd walking right around this edge here. And then Lewis kind of disappears in this area. Judd would have had his pick and shovel and he would have climbed. We would have seen him kind of up onto this area. Then you would have seen Lewis kind of come around. The next shot that we get is of Lewis. He's done made it here. And Judd is standing right where Renee's at.
Not much farther now, Lewis.
Now I'm not going to be able to get down here like I want to. I really want to, but Renee would freak out. Anyway, so after we see Judd kind of climb up right here, and we see him in the next shot, we see Lewis, and these trees are not here, kind of give a little whoop up here, and he's standing in front of this rock right here. We know these are the scenes because this has some lines on it, and what he's kind of standing in front of with his elbows propped up when Judd's like, "Not far now, Lewis." We can see in the shot that there's lines just like this one right here. But in the shot where it looks up and you see Judd standing there, Lewis would have been kind of chest high, resting his elbows up there. And the camera would have been looking up at Judd, standing right where Renee's at. Of course, this tree isn't here. But in the shot, we can see this stone here with the cut across it. And we can also see this stone here, which you can barely make it out. There's some grooves going sideways. Looks like over time it's been eroded away, but you know, they're right here. Both of these are in the shot. like this, with the camera looking up at Judd, who would have been a little closer, but there is a tree there. We don't want Renee to fall off the edge. But both of those would have been in the shot with Lewis standing here, and we're believing the camera would have been down here in this area, so that when it shot up, it could get Lewis standing here, the notches in the picture, this cut here, these notches, and Judd all in the same shot.
Almost there, Lewis.
You keep saying that.
This time I mean it.
So, the shot that we get, Lewis has made it to here. He's heard Judd say, not much farther now. And the camera kind of shoots down like this, but it's a real close in shot. I mean, we're talking like this close. All right. And in the shot, we have Lewis, who is standing here. But we also have this flat wall here, the water, and this pile of rocks looking just about like this right here. Now, of course, they would have been much zoomed in so that you only got a lot of this. And not as wide as us, but we can't zoom in. So this is the shot you get, and this is roughly it.
You keep saying that.
So our next location is in Sedgwick, Maine. More so just off of Snow's Cove Road. So if you go past, I'm going to look real quick. If you're going south on Snow's Cove Road, if you make it past Millstream Drive, you've gone too far. You need to turn around because it would have been right on your left. Looks like it's going into some woods. GPS has it across from 462 Snow's Cove Road. So just know that this road doesn't have an address. This location that we're headed to is the Micmac Indian Burial Ground. That's what is here at this location. We've read that it's anywhere from a half a mile to a mile walk. We'll find out. Either way, we're going to get some cardio going today.
And all uphill, might I add.
That's going to be fun.
We're just trying to build these butt muscles up right here.
So we have made it. Now, as you can see, this is the area. There's no circles there, just one pile of rocks. Don't know really where it came from, or if it was left over from the movie. I don't think it was left over from the movie because the pile looks a lot bigger. But nonetheless, you're looking at the top of the Micmac Indian Burial Ground. Here's the shot of Judd and Lewis. They would have been coming right through here, kind of helping themselves up on this little rock, coming right through just past this big stone. Judd still carrying the shovel and the pick, Lewis carrying church in a bag.
What is this place?
They walk right through here. And right up there on this big rock, where this pile of rocks is, would be the Micmac Indian Burial Ground. So the camera is up a little higher than what I am, probably on a crane. But it would have been this angle right here, because you can see the rock they passed in the background.
Soil's thin, but you'll manage. I'm gonna sit over yonder and have a smoke. I'd help you, but you gotta do it yourself. Each buries his own.
Right over here is where Lewis would have started digging the hole. He would have hit the ground with the pick, hit rock, and it sparked. But in the shot, you can see this lake right here in the background, and the trees still making kind of the same, triangle looking. But it's a little closer shot, obviously, a zoom lens. But you can see this lake right as he lifts the pickup and is going to come down. That's in the background. So like I said, this location would have been used, you would have seen it twice in the movie. The first time when Judd takes Lewis out and actually introduces him to the Micmac burial ground, and he buries Church. Then later on in the movie, after Gage gets hit by the 18-wheeler that's going way too fast down that little road, obviously you don't see Judd come with him, but Lewis comes by himself, and you see the burial ground again. Only this time it looks more like Lewis didn't dig a hole for Gage. He buried him under one of the piles of rocks, because that's what that's what Gage is actually pushing off when he is resurrected. So you get to see this place twice.
What would you do if, we were standing here and a little hand come poking up out of them rocks?
I'd be gone. That'd be it. I ain't staying around.
For the next shot, we're in Mount Hope Cemetery here in Bangor, Maine. This is the first funeral of 2 that you get in the film, which is the Creed's housekeeper, Missy. Now, one difference that the book versus the movie is Missy survives to the end. Yay, Missy in the book. She makes it, whatever. In the movie, they kind of more or less put all of Norma Crandall's, which is Judd's wife, all of her illnesses kind of get moved to Missy in the movie. Like the arthritis and the sudden death that she experiences. All of that would have been Judd's wife in the book, whereas in the movie, poor housekeeper. You get the shit end of the stick.
And this area right here is where they would have had Missy's funeral, right where that open spot is. Because in the shot, you have the casket and Mr. Stephen King presiding over the funeral. In the background behind him, you can see this headstone here, along with these 2 right here to my right. So this would have been your first shot after Missy's death, and this is where they would have laid her to rest. I mean, how cool is it that would have been to have Stephen King presiding over your funeral? I mean, that's pretty sweet, if you ask me.
And now, may the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face to shine upon you and comfort you and lift you up and give you peace. Amen.
Now, after Missy's funeral is over, there's a shot where there's a car right here. We should have parked our car here to give you more of an idea, but oh well. So it's Judd coming up and talking to Lewis. Lewis is standing here with the car door open, and Judd's standing right about where Renee's at, and there's some other vehicles back here. But this is the angle, and it would have been, kind of like this with Lewis in the car here. But behind Judd, you can see these sets of tombstones, and you can see this little square barrier with these tombstones kind of right behind the cars that are also parked right there.
Poor Missy. I don't know why God takes someone like her. She should still have a bunch of years left in front of her, and lets an old fart like me just go on and on.
And also during the scene, the camera is gonna go from this angle to a close-up of Lewis, and when it does, with him kind of facing Judd, this is the shot you get. Now, it is zoomed in more, so if I put my hand right about here, that's how much would be cut off of this particular tombstone. But you can see the last 2 or 3 letters right there. And then you can see directly up the staircase going between all of these other tombstones. So you could have kind of got a shot like that. You know, zoomed in more, you wouldn't be able to see all this over here. So just kind of right there.
My father used to have a saying, Judd. God sees the truth, but waits.
So we're here at the shot where we see the 18-wheeler that's going to run over Gage first pull out onto this road. So he pulls out right here. Now in the scene there used to be a light pole here, and it said South Highway 15, and then next to it was a Lions Club thing. And in the shot over here you can also see a white house, but that house burnt down in 2017. So you kind of left with this, and they've added in the speed limit sign. This right here is the hill where you would have seen the truck top the hill as it's headed in the direction that it's going to run Gage over. And you can see in the distance these smokestacks just over the hill at the paper mill in the shot also. So we kind of had to get that shot from a slow rolling vehicle because this road is very small. It's just a little 2-lane road. It is kind of raining and wet, and there is a lot of traffic coming down this road. So it didn't really feel too safe pulling off on the side of the road. There's only like one spot to pull over, and I would have had to walk probably a quarter of a mile down this tiny little road with a lot of traffic. So figured we'd give you a different perspective and do a moving shot. There's a spot in the back of the house where they would have been having their picnic in this area. They're flying the kite. The kite gets, Gage throws the thing down, like, oh, it fell out of my hands, and the kite kind of gets away from him.
Run, buddy, run. Gage is flying it.
I'm flying.
That kite's getting up there.
And as he's chasing after him, Judd says, oh, watch the baby, Lewis. Lewis is running. He would have been running right through here.
Don't let him go on the road, Lewis.
Get him, Lewis! Get the baby! Get the baby! Get the baby!
And right in this area here in front of the house is where Gage would have met the end of his road. And tragedy would have struck. The 18-wheeler would have flipped. In this shot, we've just seen poor Gage get run over by the 18-wheeler, and we've had his funeral. Lewis has sent his wife and daughter away to go stay with her parents. And he's got the idea in his head that, hey, the Micmac brought church back, so why can't it bring Gage back? So we're back here at the cemetery. We see Lewis pull up on this side of the fence, and he's parked right in front of a light pole. He gets his stuff out, he gets his bag of tools out, he throws them over the fence, and he's going to jump the fence right here in this spot. And we know this because he's parked in front of the light pole, and on the fence there's all these notches, but there's also one to his right, my left, that's a cluster of them. So this is kind of going to be our next shot after we see Lewis jump the fence. We're here. You can see the top of this grave in front of me. But we can also see right here, we can see this tombstone, this tree. There's supposed to be a tree here, but it's cut down. And we can see this walkway here and the fence that Lewis would have came through. Now Renee's gonna walk. We get just a shot of Lewis kind of walking up this way with his bag of tools. It cuts to then a close-up. I'm not sure why, but in the close-up we can see, and this would be blocked out like my hand, we can see this 1869 on this monument right here. And we have Lewis walk right in front of the camera, and then he turns and goes up that way. So I put my hat roughly the spot that Gage's headstone would have been, his burial site. We know it's right here because it's just down from this tree, and it's right on the end. Because you can see that this is a pretty good open spot where they would have put a fake headstone and burial site. So Lewis is here. He's sitting about where my hand is, close to the headstone. You know, still mourning the loss of Gage and, you know, contemplating exhuming his body or not.
It's wrong.
And as the camera pans around, we hear a voice, and it's Pascal. And Pascal is standing right about where Renee's at, in front of this monument. And he's trying to convince Lewis not to, you know, take Gage to the Micmac, reminding him that the soil is sour. But you can clearly see in the close-up of Pascal, because it does give a good close-up, you can see the name on this monument and everything. I mean, he's standing right there. And of course, you know, Lewis doesn't listen, and he starts digging Gage up anyway.
Remember, Doc, the barrier was not meant to be crossed. The ground is sour.
Well, that does it for this exit in this adventure. All things Pet Sematary. And I hope you guys got that surreal moment of seeing these locations now from the movie like we did.
It was a lot of work.
Yes.
And a lot of cold days.
Yes. But it was very worth it. So with that being said, it will catch you all down the road at the next exit.
Keep it spooky.
Later.